Hello, dear listeners, and welcome back to yet another episode of Havlicek Stole the Pod. I am your host, Alex Goldberg. With me is Dr. Justin Quinn, who's on vacation, but is still here for you, the listener, because he loves you. And on top of it all, we have a very special guest, Jack Simone from Bout Them Celtics and Hardwood Houdini. Jack, what's going on? Where are you right now?
So I'm in Las Vegas for Summer League. I am in the arena. So if you hear any extracurricular noises, it's that. There's like a media room, but there's like people writing and working and quiet. And I think there's people like actually recording in there too. So having like 3 people recording in the same room just isn't really conducive. So I came out here praying that no super cool dunks happen so the crowd doesn't go nuts. But with my luck, it'll be every other possession. But I'm here, excited to be on the show. Appreciate y'all for having me.
Sounds about right. Dr. Quinn, where are you vacationing from, and why are you disrupting your vacation by talking to us?
Well, I love y'all, as you said. That pretty much sums it up in a nutshell. Also, I'm the only one who knows how to edit the podcast, so I kind of have to be on there. I'm in San Cristobal de los Casas in Chiapas, and if you hear a recording of someone screaming, "Gas!" it's the local gas vendor. He just plays that as he drives down the street, and it's incredibly loud and obnoxious, and happens around this time, so let's hope it doesn't happen too long.
Probably a good advertisement, though. You're going to bring in a lot of people that way. I mean, at the very least, you're not lying to them. If you hear any noise from my background, dear listener, that's the chicken and rice lady outside. We love her. She makes excellent chicken and rice, but she also has a loud boombox, which is fine because that's what you get when you live in Brooklyn, where I'm recording from. We got some stuff to talk about. So among other things, first off, we're going to talk about Jack's time in Vegas, what he's seeing from the Celtics and elsewhere. On top of that, we have a few other news items, news-ish items and real news items that we're going to touch base on. We'll get into that first, and then Jack is going to steal the pod. Let's start off with the news, though. So there's a possibility that the Boston Celtics might be, at least next year, there's a certainty that they're going to be keeping at least one all-NBA player on the bench for the entirety of the season while he rehabs his Achilles. But there's scuttlebutt that they might even go so far as having 2 all-NBA players rehabbing their Achilles on the bench. Jack, what are you hearing about this whole Damian Lillard Boston Celtics recruitment drive?
Yeah, so Gary Washburn had the report for the Boston Globe the other day that Jason Tatum is like actually trying to recruit him. I know Noah Dalzell was talking on the Guard Report the other night. There's about to be a super cool dunk in transition, so there it is. Noah was talking on the pod yesterday that she had been talking to a bunch of people, and there's smoke. Like where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I don't think anybody knows if it's going to happen. I don't think Tatum knows if it's going to happen, but I do think it's real. Like, I don't think this is some made-up thing that Scott Burgess or another fake reporter put on Twitter. Like, I do think it's a relatively real rumor and a real possibility that Damian Lillard could join the Celtics and rehab stuff with Jason Tatum. And I think if you get him for a minimum contract or a cheap deal, why not, right? He's still one of the best shooters of all time. I mean, I think we've been spoiled these past couple of years of having no defensive holes in the rotation, but that's not the norm, right? That's been an exception the Celtics have dealt with. So if you can get him for a cheap contract, he can play next to Derek White and Pritchard in the backcourt. I say why not? And I do think there's a really real possibility.
JQ, what would adding Damian Lillard to the mix, not next year, but presumably the year after, he would be 36. He would be coming off an Achilles tear. Brad Stevens has typically not been the most enthusiastic guy when it comes to adding small guards with limited defensive upside. What would be different about Damian Lillard?
I mean, it all depends on how he looks, right? And I think Jack is right that the contract has to be something that in this so valuable of cap space, shall we say, cap environment, you need an out, right? You need to be like, it has to be something you can eat, because there is a pretty good chance that as much as it would be a really cool vibes to have like the Achilles bros like recuperating at the same time and then like maybe coming back and looking great, there's a pretty good chance that it's not going to work even if he does come back, just because of the limitations he had even before he was hurt. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a bad player, but his expectations of his fit on the team may not match the kind of role they're expecting him to have, which could clash even if everything goes right. So they just basically need to have the contract small enough that he's okay with it, but also that they can eat it.
Obviously, it would be a lot easier to take a small contract given that he's getting $22 million annually from the Bucks for the next 4 years. Two thoughts that I have on this are, one, honestly, with the second apron being what it is, and with the fact that Boston is going to be fighting at the margins as long as they have Tatum and Brown on the team, to me, it seems like a perfectly reasonable swing. Ultimately, the name of the game is talent acquisition. Whether Damian Lillard is part of the Celtics quest to pull up banner 19, or whether he is, just here for a cup of coffee. If you can acquire talent, that means you can use talent to acquire more talent. That is just kind of how things work in the current CBA environment. So I am largely in favor for it. And again, the risk is not incredibly high if he's taking, a minimum or even a mid-level contract, as long as the years aren't particularly onerous. You'd have to move some parts around. Boston is still dangerously close to that second apron right now. So a couple other things would have to go out the door. But to me, it's a perfectly reasonable flyer. And the real reason that I think it would be fun is because I love the idea of stealing the Bucks point guard twice and winning a championship with it. That's just very funny to me. I think it would be a cool thing. I think it would make, a couple of Bucks fans' heads explode. And I don't have any major beef with the Bucks, but it would be very funny for Jason Tatum to steal Giannis's point guard twice and get 2 rings out of it. Anyway, so that's more in the rumor zone. That's not actual news. If there is actual news, we'll update you, of course. Speaking of more kind of in the rumor, not really news, but also not news zone, we're getting some conflicting reports over something that we thought was certainly a done deal the last time that we checked in. Al Horford, the expectation, according to Mark Stein, is that he's going to sign with the Golden State Warriors, and they're just waiting on clearing up a couple of things. But Mark Spears today comes out with a counter report saying that Golden State is definitely not the only team interested in Al Horford. Atlanta and Milwaukee, among others, are both interested, along with the Los Angeles Lakers, who, well, that would be something. So, Jack, I'll kick it to you. Do you think there's any smoke to the idea that Al Horford might be suiting up for a team that's not Boston and that's not Golden State, who has been, of course, the heavily rumored favorite for a while now?
Yeah, I mean, I think anything can happen at this point. I think he could retire. We really don't know what is going to happen with Al Horford. I don't think he's coming back to Boston. I think Brad Stevens talking about that in his press conference pretty much put that to bed. I think the Warriors are still the most likely. I think a team like the Hawks would make some sense. It would be kind of funny if they just sold the entire Celtics front court going into the next season. I think the Nuggets make some sense, or they make less sense now that they confirmed that Valanciunas will be back for next season, but could still make sense if they want an extra big man depth behind Gordon and him and Jokic and everything like that. I don't really know what the Bucks are doing. That seems kind of silly to me. They need point guards, and they are going to just sign $1 million bigs behind Giannis. I think he's a great fit next to Giannis, but you just signed Turner to a contract that's way too big. So bringing in Al Horford on top of that would be kind of weird to me, especially considering I think he's probably going to get a little bit more money than people expect, just because of if he was going to take a minimum, would he come to Boston? Would he just go to a pure definite title contender? I don't really know. I feel like a team that is vying for him is going to pay him, and probably part of the reason he hasn't signed in Golden State yet is Kuminga is still a restricted free agent, so they don't really know what's happening there. I do think there's a chance he doesn't sign with Golden State. I don't think he will be back in Boston, and maybe he'll retire. I think he's definitely going. If I had to put make it a pie of percentages, Golden State would still be the biggest piece, retirement would be the second biggest piece, and then I think you just fill in the gap with the rest of the teams around the league.
JQ, what's the most interesting team that Horford can sign with, and what's the least interesting? I'm going to put you on the spot.
I mean, the Lakers are clearly the least interesting, at least from a Celtic fan perspective. I mean, that's a great way to ensure he will not get his number retired, or at least not until we have a Ray Allen level of time to cool down. I don't even know if Ray's going to have his number retired, but that's neither here nor there. The most interesting team, I think, if we are going to strictly talk from the Celtics perspective, fan of Celtics, would be the Hawks, I think, because that would give him a nice career arc or a place where he would actually be a little bit more useful than he is here. Or we could just say the Celtics, as he comes back to tutor newest Celtic, Charles Bassey.
Yeah, Charles Bassey at Al Horford School would be awesome. We're going to talk a lot about Charles Bassey later. Yeah, no, I mean, I think the reality is that it's probably more likely than not that he's all but certain going to Golden State, and they're just waiting to send Jonathan Kuminga somewhere else to make the salaries work. The Hawks fit is intriguing to me, specifically because obviously you have not only Al Horford's familiarity with Atlanta, he still has a house there. He still spends at least half of his year there. The familiarity with Kristaps Porzingis as well as a front court partner. If you add Al Horford to that team, suddenly the Hawks are looking pretty scary, I think. Suddenly that team becomes very, very good. And really then you roll into the season with a situation where basically the only negative player on the roster is Trae Young, who is such a good offensive player. And I think he's actually improved on that end. That you can make the case that the Hawks, I think with Al Horford, would be, I think that would take them from what they are now as a kind of fringe puncher's chance finals contender to like, this team might actually make the finals. I would be very intrigued to see that. Yeah, I'd be very intrigued to see that, but I don't know. That's a TBD. Jack, anything else on Horford?
No, I mean, I like your point about the Hawks. I think they've done a phenomenal job of we're just going to put as many elite defenders around Trae Young as possible, and everything else will take care of itself. I really just think at this point it is Golden State or retirement. Like I would be pretty surprised if he went anywhere else. I think it would make sense. I think the Bucks would be hilariously disastrous, and I don't think he would do that. I think he's smarter than that, unless they give him a crazy amount of money, which I don't think they could do. I think the Hawks would be fun. I think the Hawks are going to be fun regardless. I think that's a really cool team to root for with Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Risa Shea, and everything else they have going on with Trae Young at the helm and Alexander Walker, Porzingis, blah, blah, blah. So I think he would definitely add to that. I mean, I know a lot of Celtics fans don't like the Warriors after 22 finals. If Al Horford joined the Warriors, that would be so fun, in my opinion. Like, they haven't had a center for pretty much the entire time. Steph Curry and Draymond Green have been there, and Klay Thompson before he left for Dallas. You tell me they can roll out a starting lineup of Stephen Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond, Al Horford. I mean, you'd probably pick the Rockets and Thunder over them, but they have a real case to being 3 in that Western Conference with a real serious shot, if they're healthy, to win the West. And that's saying a lot considering the Western Conference. So I think that's my most fun one just because of how good that team could be. And if Al wants to win a championship and get paid, I think all signs point to the Bay Area.
Yeah, it would make sense. It would make a lot of sense. Steph Curry and Al Horford would be pretty wild to watch. In other Celtics big-ish man news, Drew Peterson is no longer a Boston Celtic. He signed with the Boston Hornets. No, the Charlotte Hornets on a two-way. They may as well be the Boston Hornets with how many Celtics refugees they bring in. But Drew Peterson is headed to Charlotte to meet up with Charles Lee. Don't have a whole lot to say about Drew Peterson other than that I enjoyed the end of season games that he popped in and hit a couple threes. I wish him the best. Good luck, Drew. You seem like a fine guy. Speaking of, some other transactions, maybe not so much in the NBA trade rumor mill, but in the NBA bigger transaction, Adam Himmelsbach reports that while the Board of Governors, aka the various NBA owners, will meet in Vegas, while they are going to meet in Vegas, the Boston Celtics sale approval vote is not going to take place in Vegas. It will take place soon, but it's not going to happen at Summer League. Based on everything that we've seen as far as reporting goes, it sounds like Bill Chisholm and his group have the money. It sounds like there should be no real issues with this going through. It's basically a fait accompli. Is there anything else that we should add about the sale, or is it just, dotting I's and crossing T's, so to speak?
Exactly that.
I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty solidified, yeah.
Sounds right. So let's get then into Vegas, where the Celtics are 2-1. They had a game last night against the Miami Heat, which they lost. We have seen a bunch of different players kind of contributing to the Vegas effort, and some more so than others. And as we jump in, folks, you know it, you love it. It's time for the steal Jack, you're going to steal the pod. What do you want to talk about? Vegas, Celtics, otherwise, what do you got?
Okay, so I've talked about this on a couple places before, but I'm going to spread my planting flag on an island everywhere I can. Everyone's talking about Ugo Gonzalez. He's been awesome. Charles Bassey, he's been cool. Marty Williams is done. Max Shulga. I'm going to start the island.
You're just playing right into Justin's hand with that one.
Listen, I need to make myself clear. He needs to be a more consistent three-point shooter if he, ever wants to play at the NBA level. Point-blank period, there's no way around it. He hasn't been a great shooter in Summer League so far. He's a solid shooter in college, but he needs to get even better than he was there. However, it's so rare to see, even with these 4 or 5 year college players, which he is, a guy come in and literally not change his face or expression or confidence level or anything, no matter what happens. Right? I've been saying it everywhere. He's stone-faced on the court at all times. I remember watching in the next game, the first possession of the game, he airballed a floater. Most guys would be going back. Ugo would be swearing at himself in Spanish. Jordan would be screaming. Other guys would be pissed, right? He didn't care, walked back, pivoted immediately, stole the ball when the Knicks tried to pass it up the court, swung it, relocated a three-point line, hit a three, and then picked up his guy full court on the next possession. Like there is no pause, there's no hesitation, there is no confidence wavering, there's nothing. He had 8 assists yesterday with no turnovers. His float game in the lane is awesome. He's very comfortable running the pick and roll. I'm not saying he's going to be a starting point guard in the NBA. I'm not even saying he's going to be like a 6-man-a-year candidate. But if the three-point shot comes around and the Celtics are willing to continue developing him, especially if he gets to take on that J.D. Davison role that he's played in these last few years, there's real NBA talent there. Like you don't find that level of confidence, that level of like no expression. Like there is no, he doesn't care. Like he doesn't care if he messes up. And that's not something you see in a lot of players, especially when they first get to the NBA. And I think he's a great point guard. I think he's a great ball handler. I think his defense has been extremely underrated. Everyone's talking about how Ugo and Baylor are picking up full court. Max Shulga is picking up full court every single time he's there. And so I think he's been very impressive. I've loved what I've seen from him. And if that three-point shot comes around, I'm just saying to watch out for Max Shulga.
Absolutely. JQ, Shulga was one of your guys heading into the draft. What do you have to say to that?
I mean, he is impressing me for the exact same reasons that Jack is talking about. There was a play last night where he was picking up basically the Jason Tatum role, somehow drew 2 defenders going towards the basket, and then like turned around and dipped it right to Charles Bassey for a nice little jumper. And it's just like, you don't see a 57 pick do something like that almost ever, right? This soon. Yes, it's Summer League. Yes, he's got to learn how to shoot. But like the fundamentals of an NBA player are already there. He's always doing the little things. He's not trying to Jordan Walsh, no offense to Jordan Walsh, shoot himself into fame, take over the game. Like he plays within the role he's supposed to and does not do anything else, but he does it as best as he can.
Remind me, how many years was Max Shulga a college player? Was he a 3-year guy, 4-year guy? I forget.
He was a 4-year guy.
I think he was a 4-year guy. I'm going to double check right now. I think he spent 2 years at Utah State and 2 years at VCU. I'm going to double check. 3 years Utah State, 2 years VCU. So 5-year college.
Okay, 5-year guy.
I mean, yeah. So, we have seen Brad Stevens definitely likes to get, kind of long-term college guys who have, been in rotations for a while. Obviously, Shulga had a very strong college career. It wouldn't tremendously shock me if he, at least got a 2-way out of this thing. I think he's almost certainly going to spend this year in Maine, which is fine. I think that's perfectly reasonable. But, Maine development's been pretty good for guys who have played, a decent amount in college. And there's definitely something to be said for the intensity, the shot making, the defense, kind of how it all comes together. I think the big thing for me with Shulga is NBA athleticism is just at a completely different level. And Summer League is a good simulation of that, but it's not a perfect one. Ultimately, it's what's going to matter is, can he play at the pace and at the speed that the most talented athletes in the world can? But, what we've seen in Summer League, promising. As far as other promising performances in Summer League, let's just go game by game. First off, in the first game, a couple of guys stood out. Jordan Walsh had 17 points. Ugo Gonzalez had 12 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 2 blocks. And Charles Bassey, who has been the story of the Celtics Summer League in many respects, made his debut with 14 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 blocks in the win over Memphis, 92-78. Anything that we saw in that game that we want to focus on, fellas? I'll swing it to you first, JQ.
Ooh, from that one, I mean, seeing that Ugo wasn't going to be lost, and for all of you who are struggling with Ugo instead of Hugo, me he vivido en Mexico por 10 años y I am still fucking saying that shit, so don't feel too bad. It's hard to get out of the this is a silent H. I need to make sure I remember that habit. But also, I mean, it wasn't so good last night, but in the first game, he seemed pretty comfortable playing against pretty high-level talent in a way that I think really put to bed a lot of concerns that we had for him coming into such an environment. Because, yes, he did play with grown men, but he was doing it for like 10 minutes a night, right? And this was like extended run. And that's what really stuck out to me.
And Jack, you can feel free to add more to this game, or if you want to jump to the next game, we can go ahead and do that. What do you want to do?
I mean, either way, the next game was the next game, and I think the biggest thing from all the games is Baylor Scheimer's been getting way too much flack on social media and everything. He needs to hit his shots. Like, there's no excuse for it. He's just in a cold spell, but he's doing everything else pretty well. It's on the offensive end, especially. I think the people who are saying, "Oh, we got 5 steals, he was great," taking a bit too many chances. Right? He needs to stop going for those poke out from behind steals. He's taking too many risks. He's going to get himself in trouble. But as an offensive player, I said this on How About the Celtics a couple nights ago. Like, it's getting lost on people that the Celtics, yes, they have 3 primary creators still, right? Jaylen Brown, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard are going to have the ball in their hands. But the problem with that is Derek White and Peyton Pritchard are being moved from secondary creators to primary creators, and there's no secondary creators, right? Like, it's just because Tatum, Drew, Porzingis now, like, those creators are gone. You don't have those anymore. So you need guys who are going to be, okay, this action got shut down. Let's swing it and run another PNR on the other side of the floor. That's going to have to be Shireman. And so the fact that he's finding so much success in these situations where he is running pick and roll, where he is dishing out 9 assists a game, where he is running the offense comfortably, getting floaters in the lane, drawing 2-on-1s, passing big in the dunker spot, like, those are positive things. For as much as you want to see the shot go down, and again, it needs to go down, I don't think he's ever going to be an elite catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. I think he's more comfortable off the dribble, and that's something he needs to improve upon. The fact that he's been so comfortable as a shot creator and playmaker for the Celtics, I think bodes well for the role he could potentially play next year in Boston.
He had a couple of nifty passes to Jordan Walsh yesterday when Jordan Walsh was in the game. We'll get into that in just a moment. From the second game, as you alluded to, against the Knicks, the Celtics won that game 94-81. Charles Bassey had an outstanding game, 22 points, 13 rebounds, 2 steals, 3 blocks. Jalen Bridges added 16 and 5 rebounds. Baylor had a good game with 13 points. The shooting was a little up and down, but he made up for it with 8 rebounds, 8 assists, and 3 steals. Jordan Walsh had 13 points and 4 rebounds. I want to talk about, we got to tear the lid off of this Charles Bassey thing, guys. He has been, I think, by far the Celtics' best player in Summer League. The hustle, the intensity, the shot blocking, he's been doing a really good job, not just getting blocks, but really mucking up and contesting shots at the rim. He's been the recipient of a number of lobs and putbacks. He just really seems like he's, turning into this very like rugged, physical, kind of almost throwback player. I think of like a Reggie Evans or something like that, these kind of old school classic 4s that, get on the boards, do the dirty work, kind of rough people up and block shots. Really fun player to watch. Jack, I'm curious, what have been your thoughts on the Charles Bassey renaissance?
Yeah, Charles Bassey's been great. I think he's been really good. He was very impressive in those first 2 games as a rebounder. You could just painfully see that, like, he's too good for Summer League. However, see him go up against an actual NBA center in Khalil Ware, and the dream starts to fade a little bit, at least in my opinion.
He made some
I
mistakes.
said this last night on the show. He made some mistakes. I said this last night on the show. I am like the last guy to be like obsessed with Keita. I don't know if I'm in on Keita. I don't know if Kiwi's going to be very good. There's so many issues with his spatial awareness and everything on the floor. Keita would have done a better job in that game. And there comes a point where it's like, as much as you value the spatial awareness, understanding of defense, the don't jump, stay grounded defense. Keita's got 2 inches on him. He's got longer wingspan, bigger body. For as much as Bassey could probably give you 6 and 6 a night for the Celtics, Keita's going to give you 12 and 10 some nights, and then shoot 1 for 6 and have 4 fouls other nights. But you bank on the potential because you want to develop that. And if you're the Celtics and this is the position you're in, you could have had Charles Bassey whenever you wanted. So clearly they saw something. They were like, we want to stick with our guys. We want to, continue developing Keita. We want to see what Luka Garza has, especially as an offensive talent. And then we have Ricky Amari Williams. You have Tillman if you really need a center depth. But I don't know how realistic it is that the Celtics end up signing Bassey. I think this might just end up being, we'll give a guy a place to play Summer League. We'll help our Summer League team be a bit more competitive than it probably would have been otherwise. And then we'll go our separate ways. And he'll probably earn a contract with another team. And the other thing is, he's never played more than 36 games in a season. Like, he's not healthy. He doesn't stay on the court. And so I've liked Bassey. I've enjoyed what he's brought to the table. I do think there is a spot for him in the NBA somewhere. And ironically enough, considering they probably have the worst center in the league, I just don't know if that's the direction the Celtics would choose to go in.
JQ, what do you think? Should we start prepping to buy the Charles Bassey jersey at the pro shop anytime soon?
I wouldn't go that far, but for all the things that Jack just said, I do think that if he were open to taking a 2-way deal, he is still eligible. He has not crossed that.
Is he eligible?
Yet. I think he's only had 4 seasons total, right? And if you've only played 4 seasons in the G League.
I thought it was, but I thought it was 3 seasons, but it can be 4 if you didn't play one of those seasons because of injury. Because like Harry Giles, I remember it was
only
Harry
got
Giles.
2, I think, in the G League, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure you can play up to 4 total.
I see. I wasn't sure because I know he played 1 year in Philly, and then I think he's played 3 in San Antonio. I would have to check.
I could be wrong.
I thought it was.
If it's possible,
I mean, he has been. Sure, yeah.
If it's possible, I would not mind seeing that in place because, as you pointed out, the other Celtics already on full roster spots. Those are the guys they should be developing for all the reasons you highlighted. But it doesn't hurt to have a little pressure from below for everyone. I think that would be a good dynamic, a good backup plan if suddenly he starts dominating and there's opportunities where he does play with Boston, and you would get some with Boston. You may have a little bit of found gold. Probably not, but it doesn't hurt to have that pressure from below if it's even possible.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think, there's a lot of pressure from media folks to get Charles Bassey onto the Boston Celtics roster. He has been a standout performer, but as you mentioned, Jack, earlier, he did not have the best game against Kel'el Ware, who, of course, is a guaranteed roster spot for Miami. He will certainly be playing NBA basketball this year. Speaking of that game, the only loss so far for Boston, a 196 loss to Miami. Baylor Sharman had a very good game, 19 points, 9 assists, and 5 steals. Hugo Gonzalez had 10 points and 7 rebounds. Charles Bassey, a relatively quiet 10 points, 9 rebounds. Miles Norris, who's another guy I've been watching, had 10 points and 5 rebounds. But the big story of this game, I mean, we have to talk about the ejection of Jordan Walsh, who had 13 points and then rapidly accumulated 2 technical fouls in the span of a minute and got tossed directly in front of Brad Stevens and Bill Chisholm.
Love it.
Yeah, what do we think? Jack, you're going first. What do we think about the Jordan Walsh ejection?
Oh, man, it was kind of silly. You can't do that in a summer league game. I like the intensity. It was fun. It was cool to watch. You very clearly cared. Come on, man. You got to not get ejected. He said after the game, he said, he forgot I had the first text, so I think he was just so caught up in the moment. It's funny because I did like a film breakdown with Jordan a couple days ago, and we went over a play where he was like bugging an inbounder, just like off the court. He was like, yeah, I wanted to get him attacked. So I think he just enjoys like being a nuisance. I think he just likes being a pain. And I asked him again about it after the ejection. He was like, yeah, it's just fun. Obviously, it shouldn't be going that far, but he said after the game he apologized to Brad Stevens, and I don't think Brad probably was thrilled. He did say Joe Mazzulla texted him and came up to him and said, I love it. I think he framed it in the way he's like, I don't know if that's a good thing or not. So shouldn't be getting ejected for summer league games though.
JQ, thoughts on Jordan Walsh's ejection or any of his other performances this year at Summer League?
So let's start with that last point. We were pretty worried we might see a repeat of his second year rather than something closer to his first year. And what we needed to see from him was something closer to his first year, which, apart from the ejection, is what we have been seeing from him, is a much more balanced, much more knows my role version of Jordan Walsh. As to the extracurriculars, Boston could use something in the vaguest outline of an enforcer. Maybe a little bit more polished, maybe a little bit more situationally aware. This is Summer League. You don't need to do this in Summer League. But I like the idea of having an antagonist. I mean, there's nothing bad about having that kind of a player on your roster if his role is not a primary one. You just unleash them and they just start distracting the other team with extracurriculars. They can absorb those fouls in a way that won't necessarily harm your overall game plan. It pesters them. It throws them off balance. I think as long as he continues to develop that carefully, it can be a very big positive.
Yeah, I think I lean a little bit more towards Jack's side of things. Listen, Jordan Walsh, I see where you're coming from. You're trying to make an extra effort. You're trying to bring that intensity. I get it. You know, Joe Mazzulla is a legendary, intense guy. It's your third league. It's your third summer league, man. Like, with all due respect, most guys are done after two if they're trying to stick around in the NBA long term. A lot of guys are done after one. Cooper Flagg was done after 2 games. All this is to say, Jordan Walsh, I don't know that you have the wiggle room to be getting ejected in a summer league game, because I am not sure that your roster spot is all that locked in to begin with, especially in your third year in the league. There's still some tools. He has been playing reasonably well, but it's just one of those things where it's like, first off, don't do that. And secondly, directly in front of Brad Stevens, really? Like, that guy has your job on the line, and that's the impression you want to give off. Okay, Jordan Walsh, good luck to you. We'll see. There have been some other guys in the Boston Celtics Summer League who have been making an impression. Obviously, we talked about Shulga right off the jump. We talked a little bit about Baylor Sharman. We talked about Jordan Walsh. What about Amari Williams? What have you seen from him, Jack?
Amari Williams can pass the ball, man. He's so fun. I did like a video on him and some of the passing he did at Kentucky. I think he needs to improve as a rebounder. He still gets bullied a little bit too much down there for how big he is. His touch around the basket, is really raw. He needs to improve that. Incredible screener, giant body, leveled Jalen Wells. I think it was in the first game. I don't even think that was a foul. I think they called it because he got hit so hard. He's a great screener. Extremely talented passer, has elite floor vision, especially for a center, but in general. I think he can run the pick and roll pretty well. He works with the Celtics player development guys and practices individually. Like, every time we've seen him working in summer league practices, he's not working with Bassey and Ben Gregg and Kenny Lofton. He's working on his own on very specific things the Celtics want to work with him on. He needs a lot of polishing, which maybe isn't ideal for an older player. He's going to turn 24 this season. But the passing's there, and that's a phenomenal foundation to start on. I think I'm going to be talking to him tomorrow and doing a film breakdown with him, so I'm going to ask him about it a little bit. But I like him. I think he's got all the talent in the world, and after you lose Cornette and Horford in one offseason, kind of need some passing at that center spot. So,
JQ, any other guys on the Summer League roster that we haven't brought up that you want to talk about?
Miles Norris, I think your guy is worthy of talking about. If there is someone who has had a connection to Boston who is in danger of losing it, it's probably him. But there's a very good case for keeping him around to fill the Jordan Peterson kind of future Sam
Not
Hauser
Jordan
kind of
Peterson. The Celtics cannot sign Jordan Peterson. Please, Celtics, do not. I'm imploring you to not sign Jordan Peterson, Boston Celtics.
Oh,
please. He would be a locker room cancer. There would be all sorts of problems.
Let's just go with the future Sam Hauser. I can't stop.
I was gonna say, even if you wanted to go with Drew Peterson, you better make sure it's the right Drew Peterson. Like, you better be very careful with the Peterson you select.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine what a conversation between Jordan Peterson and Joe Mazzulla would look like. And I'm having real trouble processing that as a possible interaction. Anyway, we're getting horribly derailed.
Miles Norris.
Yeah.
he has a potential. He has potential to be your 3-and-D 3-4 wing. I like it.
I think Miles Norris is fine. He what I like about Miles Norris is that he can hit an open three, and he's kind of tall, which I am always in favor of. The other guy that I think we haven't talked a ton about, but we probably should, is 28th pick Hugo Gonzalez, who again has looked up and down. He is 19 years old, guys, and he looks 19 for sure at times. But that being said, some of the shot blocking stuff is pretty cool. He had a nice block in game one. Defensively, it seems like he's doing a nice job, at the very least, being a nuisance. The concerns I had about Ugo heading into the draft, I think you are starting to see bear out. The game looks a little fast for him right now. I think
the whistle
against
not very friendly. He's not used to an NBA whistle.
Against really physical defense, he's having trouble getting momentum towards the basket, which I think is a big part of kind of the strengths as an offensive player, is as a driver and passer out of those situations. Miami was doing a great job of kind of getting up into him before he was taking a dribble, before he was gathering any downhill momentum. And I think that's going to be hard for him in the big leagues. But the defensive tools are really intriguing. If the shot can get even a little bit better, I think at the very least you could start to see him, kind of become a pretty good main player and chip his way into the rotation late season. With Ugo, it's all upside, and I feel like the upside is still intriguing enough to make it worth, potentially bringing him in on a roster spot, at the very least, a two-way. The Amari Williams just really.
I think Hugo is pretty safely going to have a regular roster spot, and I think they're going to play him a lot too. I don't know if it's going to lead to many wins, but I think they're going to play him.
It's going to look rough. But go ahead, Jack.
I think first-round picks get the 2-2 standard pretty much automatically. So I think Ugo will be in Boston for sure, unless they're stashing him in. I mean, he's in Vegas, so I don't think they're stashing him. I've liked Ugo a lot in summer league. The one thing I'll say about Ugo, and this is something that Shulga and Jeremy, all these older guys do a lot better, I should say, that he needs to improve on as a 19-year-old. I don't want to throw out too many explicatives here, but Hugo Gonzalez could have 30 points, 5 rebounds, 12 assists on 19 of 20 shooting, but that one miss was in the last 30 seconds of the game, and he would want to go slam his hands in a door until he fixed his shot. Like, he cannot fathom himself making a mistake. Like, it is the worst. Like, he hates his life every time he messes up a single time on the court, and you can see it. And that's like, it's like a two-sided coin, right? On the one hand, it's a good thing because he wants to improve at all times. He's like has this insane drive. I think Ugo and Joe Mazzulla are going to be co-psychopaths on the Celtics team, which I think fans are going to fall in love with pretty quickly. On the other hand, you can't do that. Like, you need to be able to move on to the next play and not let your disappointment and frustration show up in the next one. And as like you said, he's 19. He's going to have to improve on it, and he has plenty of time to do so. And if anything, I think it's positive. I asked him why he's so hard on himself. He said, in 30 years, I want to be able to say I did everything to be the best possible player I could be and help teams win championships. And I just think he is extremely intense on the court, and he's going to have to work to get rid of some of the frustrations that come after every tiny mistake, because I think he's a very talented player. I think he needs to improve a lot as a ball handler. He drives into traffic too many times. He only does the Euro step. He's added a little bit more to his driving game at some points. I think the three-point shot has potential to come around. I think he's an elite cutter. I think he's a great defender. I think he's an impressive quarter crasher, offensive rebounder. He's very athletic. I think he's got the raw skill set and the drive to be a very good player in the NBA. He's just got to cut out some of that mental frustrations that come after every individual mistake.
Yeah, I have, since the Celtics drafted him, I have been really in favor of Derek White specifically taking Ugo under his wing, because where Ugo is uber intensity, Derek is very calm and relaxed in a way that I think matters a lot to this team, frankly, given how many fiery personalities are on it. Derek White's steadying effect has been pronounced and notable, and I'm hoping that when Ugo gets into the locker room, that presence will help him to adjust. Jack, what game are you currently watching right now?
I am watching Magic Thunder They're resting some guys, I think, at least the Magic are. The Magic are resting Noah Penda, who I was extremely high on coming to the draft. He was my number one Celtics target at 28. And the Celtics technically did draft him at 32, but they traded the pick. And so he wore Celtics gear at the draft and made me sad, and then ended up Orlando. But he's not playing today, so I'm even more sad that I don't get to watch him.
What are some other games that you got to take in, and which ones jumped out?
Hansen Yang got the biggest pop I've ever seen. Like, it rivaled Bronny James, and it was insane. Like, the first night I was here, or the first day I was here watching games. I think it's actually Jan Hansen, but he was playing, and I think there were a lot of Chinese fans in the stands and just general fans that beat the Blazers because it's relatively close on the West Coast. Every time he touched the ball, screaming. He committed the most blatant foul I've ever seen in my life, and the entire crowd was crying bloody murder, begging the ref to overturn the. It was insane to watch. He can hoop, man. It's not just a cult fandom. He's good. He's going to be very good. Some other guys I've liked. Very random. I've caught a few Sun games. Boogie Ellis is on the Suns. He's like a guard. I don't know if he'll ever turn anything. He's been fun. He just picks up full court, very intense, very cool guy to watch. I'm trying to think of what other teams I've watched a lot of so far. I have to go through this book of teams. I watched the Hornets. Ryan Kalkbrenner is massive. He's an insanely large human being. Oso Ighodaro, also on the Suns. Too good for Summer League. He's incredible. He's going to be a very, very good NBA player. I like him a lot. I'm just flipping through to see what other games, if anything else jumps out to me. I think that's about it. I've watched the Bucks a few times. Nothing really sad to me about the Bucks. They're pretty irrelevant.
Oh, the Bucks
Bulls
didn't
Summer League
do a good
roster is
job
terrible.
drafting? What could have possibly given you that idea?
No, nothing crazy there. Barnheiser on the under, actually, I'm watching now. He's pretty good too. He's a sneaky second round late guy who I got to watch. But other than that, I think that's about it.
Yeah, the Young Hansen thing is awesome. I've been watching his highlights every chance I get. You are right. He can hoop. And I am wondering what this means for Portland's center rotation, which is now quite crowded. Of course, you've got Justin's Goliath there from UConn. Former Celtic Robert Williams is still in Portland. We'll see how long he's there for, but I'll be a little intrigued to see what's going on with the Blazers this year for sure. They're one of my deep league pass teams. You got one more game. Speaking of Bronny James, who you mentioned, the Celtics will be squaring up against him on Thursday. What are you going to be watching for in that game?
Man, I don't know. I think we might see some of the deeper bench guys play because the Celtics are pretty much out of playoff contention with Summer League with the one loss, which is kind of funny. Maybe there's a chance they get in based on point differential if they do only lose one game, because you never know what teams end up losing that are undefeated currently. I would need to look closer at the actual standings. So I still think they're a try. I think we're going to see most of the rotation play tomorrow. I think Omari Williams will be back on the court. What I'm going to be looking for is the same thing everyone's looking for. Can Baylor Shireman make shots? I think that's what everyone's looking for at this point throughout it. I think selfishly, I would like for Hugo Gonzalez to have a really good game because I would love to do some film with him like I've been doing with some other guys. And I don't really know if he'd be super hyped to do it after a super rough game like he had the other day. So I would love Hugo to play well selfishly and just for the general developmental process of this Celtics and really team. But other than that, I guess we'll see.
JQ, anything you're keeping your eye on as the Celtics take on their hated rival, the Los Angeles Lakers, in yet another sure-to-be famous bout?
I mean, Jack pretty much summed it up in that there's going to be a lot of guys, most likely, even if they were in playoff contention, there would be a lot of guys they would still be playing just to give them some run, to see what they have, give them another chance, because most of the decisions about who is going to be on the two-way spot that's going to be open, the regular roster, that's more or less pretty concretized, barring some surprise trades that could happen. But, I mean, I don't think they're going to be happening while Summer League is going on. So everyone's direction is pretty much set. It will be interesting to see if any of these guys that are deep or have been deep in the rotation flash something in that kind of an opportunity. This isn't a game that is going to be played for wins or losses, particularly with the loss already going on, particularly if they are eliminated from playoff contention in Summer League. So mostly I'm just going to be watching for what might come out of left field in terms of surprises, because most of these guys, that aren't already signed are probably never playing for the Celtics, but you never know that if one of them pops and has a good experience with Summer League years down the line, that might be the difference between them signing with Boston or not.
Jack, you're in Vegas for a little bit longer. What have you been doing when you're not watching basketball?
Ubering to watch basketball. No, I've gone out to dinner a few times. That's been nice. I went to the pool this morning. It was fun. It was nice to be in the water. I don't really know. I spent, I would say, 80% of my time here at Thomas and Mack in the Cox Pavilion. The one thing I will say, last night as we were leaving the arena, we were pretty late till like 9:30, and Noah found for me, her and Bobby Kravitsky, a sushi place open till 2 a.m. We're like, oh, we'll go get some food. It's fine. It's open late enough. We'll be good. We get there, and the waitress comes to us, and she goes, "You guys doing the all you can eat?" We're like, "The what?" The what? And so it was $30 all you can eat. We ate an obscene amount of sushi, and we're definitely gonna go back. So that's probably been the highlight of my non-basketball watching experience so far.
Good stuff. I'm gonna have some Brooklyn sushi after this. It's probably not gonna be as good. Yeah, great. Well, that sounds fun. So Vegas Summer League. There's a lot of stuff that happens on the court, but there's also a lot of things that happen off the court. And a big part of being a reporter at Vegas is kind of picking up on the little threads that are being woven in those conversations between GMs and owners and coaches and scouts. Have you been, noticing any kind of fun stuff taking place off the court as far as Vegas Summer League is concerned?
I mean, there's definitely been a ton of people here in general. Like Joe Mazzulla's been at all the games watching up top. Obviously, you see Brad Stevens, Bilches, and Pags, and everybody courtside. Dave Lewin, Mike Sayre, and all the front office guys. You'll see them. I sat down to watch a game a few days ago, and the whole time I'm like, I know this person. Actually, I know this person. Why do I know this person? I introduced myself. Or he asked to borrow my charger, and I introduced myself as Collison, so I felt like an idiot the whole time. But he was very nice. I talked to him for a little bit. But it's mostly just been talking to people. I've met a couple scouts. I've met a couple of people who work for agencies. It's been a fun experience. I mean, it's very cool to be sort of like you just said in the mix of what is very clearly one of the bigger networking events, probably the biggest networking events. I went to a party the other night. I hated it personally. I hate that type of scene at bars and clubs and stuff. That's just really not for me. So I went home after a little bit. But there were some cool people there. Tony Allen and Zach Randolph were there. You saw some GM.
Cool.
You saw some people. But it's been fun to be sort of in the mix and introducing yourself to people. So I very much enjoyed it. It's cool.
Worth the trip?
Absolutely. I'll be here as much as I can. I'm here for the whole time. So maybe if you ask me in a few days, I'll be sick of the Vegas heat and everything going on here by then. But right now, in this moment, I'm having a phenomenal time.
Nice. Well, we're glad you're having a phenomenal time. We're going to wrap up. But before we go, anything that we missed here? Any important Vegas stories or storylines that we didn't touch on that either of you want to address?
I don't think so. I think that's been pretty much it. I think most of the Celtics guys we've touched on have been pretty good. I haven't been super impressed with Kenny Lofton. I do think he was significantly better in the last game. The first two were pretty rough, and it feels like he definitely got a let's play a bit differently in the third one type of talk. So, but he's been pretty fine, especially for a guy who was like a big story coming to something. Maybe he's been a bit disappointing, but better against the Heat.
Speaking of stories, where could we find Jack Simone stories?
Yeah, hardwoodhoudini.com is where all my written content is going to be. I'm working on a few things right now in terms of overall content. One written piece will probably be out by the time Summer League wraps. How About Them Celtics is my podcast I do with Sam with Friends. And then all my individual content I post to my Twitter page, Jack Simone NBA, but it's also Jack Simone NBA on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. You can find there. I do videos of like various breakdowns for my own thoughts. I've done a couple since I've been here, film sessions with Baylor Sharman and George Walsh. I'm hopefully going to be doing one with Amari Williams tomorrow, so you can keep an eye there for that. But yeah, thanks y'all for having me on. Appreciate it.
Of course. We got a couple more quick. Yeah, we got a couple more quick hitters here. JQ, where can we find your stuff?
You either already found it because you're watching or listening to this, and if it's not one of those two things, then you can find it on Celtics Wire.
And much like JQ, you can find my stuff here. Or if you like music stuff, you can find it on Instagram. Divine Sweater is the band. And we've got some stuff coming for you. Probably not right now, but check back in soon. give us a follow, et cetera, et cetera. I'm your host, Alex Goldberg, for Havlicek Stole the Pod. We're going to end with this, per usual, something to remember or something to forget. JQ, you're going to go first. From this week, it can be Celtics, basketball, vacation, anything. What do you got? Something to remember, something to forget.
So I want us all to remember to take some time to enjoy life. Whatever we do for work, whatever we do for fandom, make sure you log off your computer, make sure you get out of your house. I just climbed up a huge ass mountain. I was at about 8,000 feet high, and it was one of the best experiences I've had this year and maybe of my lifetime. I met some Tzotzil shaman who had just climbed down the mountain, gave me one of the ritual Coca-Cola. Don't ask, it's a long story. And made some new friends. It's just get out of the house. Remember to live your life. There's more to it than basketball, which we all love and are addicted to. If you're still listening to this podcast about summer,
Boy, sure are.
But enjoy life.
Jack, something to remember, something to forget. It can be basketball, Vegas, life, whatever. What do you got?
I'm gonna not steal Justin's, but I'm gonna combine the thing he said to avoid and to do. Go play basketball, man. Go play.
Yeah.
Go hoop. I got a chance to play it. Like it was a half media, half like random people in Vegas, like the new people run, and it was great. I mean, I had such a fun time. I find myself being so much more social on the court rather than like these networking events where I get kind of like timid or shy or whatever. So it was just nice to get out there to play and to enjoy the game. Like it's fun to watch. I love watching. I love covering. I love talking about it. But to get out there and actually play basketball with other people who love basketball is awesome. So go play. Don't just watch. Go play basketball.
Love it.
And I'm going to remember to pack because I'm going on vacation. And guys, unlike Justin Quinn, who loves you, dear listener, I love you, but you're not going to be hearing from me on vacation. JQ and Daniel Donabedian are going to be taking the next episode. I'll talk to you a little bit later, but until then, enjoy this latest episode of Havlicek Stole the Pod.